fellow Storygoers, and welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Cartridge, the video game storytelling podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Eric Penrod.
And I'm your other co-host, Ryan Bauer.
I don't have anything catchy to say, or funny to say. I just realized I didn't think of anything. But Ryan, it is it really isn't that beautiful of a day out today. It's kind of humid and gross.
It's kind of humid and gross, yeah.
But what isn't humid and gross is our friendship. How are you, and what have you been playing?
What an incredible introduction. I'm doing pretty well. I've been playing a bunch of bits and bobs. I've been kind of between stuff and like really wanting some type of game to play, so I'll get to that at the end. Destiny 2, I'm kind of feeling like I'm wrapping up my time with Destiny 2. The final shape was great. The whole like ending felt like a really good place to end off on. They're doing some weird stuff with seasons where it's like 3 weeks of content, 2 weeks of nothing, 3 weeks of content, which just really kind of makes you not really want to play once there's nothing to do. Hopefully they'll solve that down the road, but there's some like really cool story stuff happening, and then see you in 3 weeks for more cool story stuff just doesn't feel great. So I'm kind of feeling like it was really fun to jump back in and play the final shape, and I even tried the raid. So that I'm feeling a little bit burnt out. I feel a little bit all done after such like an intense time. I think I'm going to take some time away, and I'll come back in a bit maybe. Steam sale's going on, so I bought a couple games. Children of the Sun and Death Must Die are the two that I've been playing. Death Must Die is like a kind of a mix between Hades and Vampire Survivors. It's like a wave, you're fighting waves of enemies, but when you die, you go back to a hub world and you get upgrades and stuff like that. It kind of doesn't do, it kind of, at least right now, isn't feel as good as either of those games. Like the characters you run into aren't the most interesting, and you don't ever see them in the hub world. You just see them like when they're giving you powers, and there's no one in the hub world to like talk to and chat with to kind of have that like narrative. So maybe it'll pick up. And then Children of the Sun is just a weird indie game where you are like this. I don't want to spoil anything, but you ran away from a cult, and now you're coming back to take your revenge on this cult. And so you are a young woman with a gun, and when you hit somebody, you then can. It's a first-person shooter. You shoot somebody. You then are in control of the bullet and have to re-aim it to hit another person. So you shoot once and you take out like a whole camp of people, and you get like powers where you can like, you know, if you hit people in certain ways, you can then like do complete UEs and fly across the map. It's like feels really cool when you're just like you know, mark everybody on the map, you find a good position, you shoot, and then you just bounce from head to head, taking the whole camp out. It's very fun. It's very gory kind of, but in a very artsy way. It's a really cool, and it's all about like taking revenge on this cult who ruined your family, in a really fun and interesting way. Definitely would encourage checking it out. And then there's a lot of talk about Elden Ring. So I dipped in, and I've been trying. If I played it for the first time this morning, about an hour and a half, I'm playing some Elden Ring. It's like so incredibly overwhelming. I don't know like if I'm doing anything right, if I'm making good choices, if I'm doing anything correctly. I'm like constantly worried that I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. But so far it's been fun enough. I mean, I don't think I've quite hit the strides yet of feeling confident and about what I'm doing. I'm also just not a person who like has particular patience for really hard things. We'll see how that goes.
This is gonna be a rough time.
Yeah, so I might like either like go a magic build, which I've heard is easier, or probably, you know, once I hit a really hard wall, quit. We'll see, because there's so much time, and I don't have the energy to spend it on those things. But we'll see. I'm excited to try something new, and this seems like a great time to try this thing that, you know, people really love. So yeah. Eric, that's a bunch of stuff that I just talked about.
Ryan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
Did your first experience of Elden Ring tarnish your idea of the narrative thing that we always talk about?
I mean, it just is a bunch of nonsense. They just start like, Millennia, the great deity who was so empowered, gave her life to you. That like they're just saying words with no context. And I know for a fact that there's like really cool lore stuff in there if you do the work and you find it. But from like a me just playing, I know like it makes no sense. I'm maidenless, and because I'm maidenless, I'm weak, and I have to go get strong. So it won't be. And I just met a maiden who's making me stronger, and so that I can become strong, so I can go sit at the round table and something.
Dang. I don't know what any of that means. That's crazy.
I also don't know what any of that means, and I experienced it.
George R. R. Martin has no idea either.
Absolutely not.
Dude can't finish his own stories, let alone...
No. Yeah, so I'd be interested to see, how it goes down the line. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty similar to Destiny in that, like, you just pretty much ignore the story and just play the fun game. And if you really want the narrative, there's some, like, good stuff there, but you have to work for it or, like, watch, multiple YouTubers who will tell you what's going on. We'll see. I think, like, from a narrative standpoint, it feels just like a bunch of nonsense to me. But we'll see. We'll see if it gets its act together, or if it, it also might just not be telling the story in the way that I am interested in engaging.
Yeah. And then the narrative takes up the backseat, necessarily, so to speak, to the experience of what's happening, which I feel like is what Elden Ring is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to play more and see how it feels going on. I ran into a really similar wall when I started Breath of the Wild for the first time, where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and everyone keeps killing me. Eventually, like, once I figured it out, I mean, the benefit in that game is there's these giant beams of light shooting across the map that can kind of tell you where to go, whereas in this, it doesn't, like, feel like that as much, but I ran into a really pretty similar wall with that game, and once I pushed through it, I it got much better, so we'll see if I have the same issues, or if...
There's beams of light? Wait, when's...
In Breath of the Wild, the giant god things, the divine beasts.
Oh, like just in the distance.
Like enticing you to go. Yeah, like I know I have to go to these 4 temples to win the game. I knew that right at the beginning. Sense. In this, I have like no concept. Like
no context. Yeah.
Exactly. I have no concept of where I'm supposed to go, what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm relying on like the game telling me to do one thing and me saying, I've heard that I shouldn't do that, and then going and getting lost and dying. So we'll see.
No, thank you. And then, you come back and do it. Like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, which is probably what will end up happening. But yeah.
It's cool that you're trying it. I think it's a good thing that you're pushing yourself to try
this thing. Yeah, I'm excited to try. And I think, like, hopefully, like, it's in the zeitgeist right now. There'll be other people trying it who can starting new with Elden Ring. Here's some things to keep in mind. Yeah. But Eric, how are you? What have you been playing?
I'm good. I had a nice weekend, and I have a short work week this week because of the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. Not sure how I feel about how things are going right now, but I'm going to celebrate. Actually, we're going to celebrate.
That's right. Yeah.
What I've been playing, same thing as usual, honestly. I'm in the same place as you, Ryan. I'm kind of in this weird, like, in-between of games. I need to find the next big game for myself. Still playing Fortnite, which I kind of fell off Fortnite, and then I jumped back on for one game, and then I won it. And I was like, oh, it was fun. And then I took a day off, and I went back and I played, and then I won the next one again. And I was like, this is either I'm doing exceptionally well all of a sudden, or this is full of bots, and they're just trying to get me back into it. Which either one could be very possible.
Right.
I'm still kind of off it though. It's still, I think I hint that like kind of the dopamine hit is lessening every time. You know what I mean? So still playing a little bit of Pokemon Unite. If you know, and Ceruledge is this cool ghost fire Pokemon with 2 sword hands, and he just came out and he's overpowered as all heck. And I had just been running through people, which is not anything about my skill. It's that he's just way too strong. So which is pretty fun. And of course Hades 2. There's so much more. We had talked about this, I think, off camera last time, where like there's so much more to Hades 2 than I thought, without giving too much away. And so I've been exploring other options and realizing there's so much more to this game, which is so cool. I'm really enjoying it. But I think I am kind of getting to the end of that as well. So I'm really hoping for an update soon, but I'm guessing it'll be fall time and they do another update. But we'll see. And then I haven't done it yet, but there is so many sales going on right now, and I have so many things to buy today. And one of those things I think will be either Bloodborne or Elden Ring. And I think it's probably Bloodborne, because I think Bloodborne will be the game that it's a shorter experience. I think it'll be a nice like warm up towards Elden Ring. Because everybody, like you're talking about, Ryan, is playing Elden Ring right now and loving it. And I am kind of in that camp of like, I'm gonna be a cool samurai guy in Elden Ring, and then I saw the unarmed, the fist fighters, and I was like, they're so cool. I want to be those people. So I'm gonna be those guys. I'm gonna be really excited for that. But like you, I will just be running around not knowing what the heck to do.
Maybe by the time you get there, I'll have some information to help, and we can fight some bosses and dungeons together, and that'll be really fun.
Yeah, I just want to know all these things people tell me, like, I'm at the cavern of sorrowness, and I'm like, cool. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Or you mean I'm fighting in Contra, the wicked person, and I'll say, yeah, no, that's cool. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I have no context to which those words are. You're trying to articulate something to me, and I have absolutely no idea what it is, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to try to experience that. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah. I love the look of Bloodborne, though. Bloodborne is a game that's I've always thought the look of it was very cool. That gothic, like horror style game. I think it's very cool. So I'm actually really excited to try that. And I think it's kind of on the shorter side too, so it'll be good. And it's $10 right now on PlayStation. Yeah. But Storygoers, we hope you enjoyed our last episode of Pikmin Part 1. I'm so happy we're doing our stories again. Like those stories.
Me too. Yeah.
Like we found the formula to get back into it. I think it's been so good. And I think I'm really happy with how the sound effects came out.
Yeah, they sound really good.
It's been so long. Yeah. It's been so long since I put them in. I was like low-key, not even low-key, I was actually pretty anxious about like how they were going to sound. I was like, oh my God, I got to make sure everything's perfect because I don't want someone getting like blasted in the ear with a sound effect and freaking them out. So I had to, I hopefully that's not the case.
Sounded fine.
Hopefully I did. Okay.
It sounded fine. Especially like a lot of the spaceship sounds are very cool. The nice ambiance of the crickets is very nice. Yeah, there's some very good. Yeah.
And there's no crickets in the game, but I was like, whatever. It's like the best sound effect I could get.
It feels pretty perfect to that like experience of playing the game. I'm pretty sure there are cricket sounds in the fourth game, especially at night. If not, my brain has imagined them because like it's a very similar like cozy summery vibes that I think fit really perfect. So I think it was a great choice.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really happy that we're back in it. I mean, it felt really good releasing that episode and like, wow, we're finally back on this path of like doing the stories again, which felt really good. And of course, Storygoers, if you have any thoughts, feelings, or perspectives you want to share, you can send it to us at talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All of the E's are threes. You can also find us on our social media, which is Instagram, leaving us a voicemail or text at 207-494-4334, or answering a Spotify poll question. If you're listening to us on Spotify, if you scroll down, you'll see a question or poll question, and you can answer all those, and we'll read them on the show like right now. We have a few that came in last time. Let me go through them really fast. This is the one that got me. I laughed really, really hard at this. For our Pikmin Part 1 episode, the question was, if you played Pikmin 1, what was your experience? And a longtime listener that we've had, Daisy Rose, wrote in, and they wrote, death. Death everywhere. And I think it's so funny. I think Daisy Rose is someone like us, Ryan, who experienced the hardship of Pikmin 1 because it's just so terrifyingly traumatic. For our Pokemon Part 10 series, the question being, what is your favorite water type Pokemon? Galaxy Wolf wrote in and wrote Mega Gyarados, which is really cool. The Mega Evolutions, I think, are so cool. That's my favorite thing about Pokemon that they've done is taking the original Pokemon and giving them Mega Evolutions. I think is so sick because I love Gen 1 so much. Squirtle's still the best. Sorry to say. And Galaxy Wolf wrote in again with the question, was the super nerd justified trying to keep both fossils for himself in Pokemon Yellow Part 8? And they wrote, nah. And I agree. So yeah, that's our write-ins for today.
Very nice. Thanks everybody for writing in.
Yeah, please don't hesitate to write in. Let us know what your thoughts, feelings, and perspectives are. We'd love to read those. If you feel in your heart of hearts to want to donate to our Patreon, that'd be fantastic. You can also rate us on Apple and Spotify and all the good stuff. But Ryan, you had the great idea of looking back at the Summer Games Fest and all the games that were announced and having us pick a couple games that we are excited for, whether it's just excitement or excited for the narrative component of a game that is coming out soon, which I thought was a fantastic idea. So would you like to start us off? We've each picked 3 games.
I picked 3. First one I'll talk about is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Watching that trailer felt really cool. It felt like watching an Indiana Jones movie. Troy Baker is doing an incredible job with his Harrison Ford voice. It's absolutely insane.
Troy Baker?
That's Troy Baker? Yeah, it's...
Dang.
That guy, he's going to have a job in the future. He's going to have a job in the future.
He's going to be someone someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'll be working for Hideo Kojima eventually, I bet.
Yeah. Which I'm really excited about. The problem is I don't know what I'm playing. It feels like I'm just watching like a video game version of a movie. Right. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like there's anything I as the player am doing other than like this is a cool movie I get to watch that's been rendered, which is, fine, but I don't know what the gameplay is going to be to like bring it all together. I hope they lean more like the Uncharted of like this really fun kind of moving gameplay, then like you get those cutscenes in, dotted in. I hope it's not like the cutscenes with like old school what were they QR QuickTime events nonsense because I'm not I'm not a huge fan of those. But yeah, it looks great, but I don't know what if it is a game. So I'm excited for that experience.
Was so long.
It was so long. Yeah.
It was like 7 minutes long.
Absolutely.
It felt so long. It felt like so much happened that you could have done, interacted with, and it was just a giant cutscene.
Yeah. So I don't know what that's gonna look like when, like, in a gameplay experience. I'm excited to figure out like what this new Indiana Jones story is because I'm a fan of Indiana Jones, even though it's kind of nonsense. I grew up with it. So I'm excited to see what that story is, but I'm a little hesitant of what the actual game is and if the gameplay is going to be fun and not just like you walking between cutscenes, which I'm a little worried about.
I mean, it looks like it's all first person. It looks like which I think is an interesting choice. I wonder if they did the first person perspective to get away from the idea that this is just an Uncharted of a different.
Maybe
with a different name, you know what I mean? This is a different thing. It's kind of like Uncharted, but it's all first person.
Yeah, maybe they'll lean more into the immersive sim aspect of it and let you kind of do some cool stuff. We'll see. I'm still a little nervous. I'm excited because Indiana Jones, and I'm excited to see like Bethesda do something a little different and new.
I forgot that's Bethesda. Oh my god. Sorry, there's so many revelations I'm having right now. I forgot that's Bethesda. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see them, try something a little different and new. I'm definitely really nervous of like what the experience of a game will be, because sometimes that's not always what they're best at. I mean, maybe it's in combination with some other folks. I mean, I think we'll see. I'm excited, but I'm anxiously excited.
Yeah, it feels like an Indiana Jones movie, which I feel like the narrative aspect will be good. I
think
they're gonna have some kind of thing that has a cool aspect to it that'll be narrative. I think you're right. I think that the gameplay aspect is the biggest concern.
Yeah.
Like, will it be fluid? Will it be fun? The fact that that's Troy Baker is kind of still blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
That's wild. That's crazy. Nuts. Troy Baker of the BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, that Troy Baker.
One of my favorite games ever. That's crazy. No, I'm excited for that too. I'm guessing the Great Circle is regarding the Great Wall of China. I'm gonna throw it out there right now.
Interesting. Okay,
I've not heard anything. I have no idea. That's just my thought.
Okay,
that's my thought.
We'll have
and
to
if
see.
I'm right, you gotta give us 5-star rating.
Have to.
That's the deal.
It's the contract.
The binding contract. The social contract. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have to sign it when we come into this world. Well, guess what? You gotta sign another one. It comes to the Great Circle.
Yeah.
Is it cool if I jump in for mine?
Yeah, I love that.
All right, my first one, I'm just going to throw out there because it's obvious. Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. I don't know if it's going to be a huge narrative game. I don't think so. I really don't. I think it'll be cute. I love the idea, though, that this is a narrative that's being piloted by Zelda herself and not through Link. I love that this is the Legend of Zelda that's actually a Zelda-led game. And I think that in itself is fantastic. I think this is Nintendo's way of saying, like, hey, you've said for a long time you want Zelda to be the heroine of to be the runner of this game or the protagonist of this of a game, and here's your chance to show us if you really mean that you want that or not. And I love that this is like, as much as I love the idea of Zelda running around with a sword and a shield and doing what Link does, I do love that Nintendo is wise enough to take this in a route that is like using your smarts to get through objectives and not the brute force of courage that Link has. Like, they're showcasing Zelda's wisdom. I think it's really smart.
Yeah, that feels smart.
And I love that it's like, again, in the same art style as the new Link's Awakening, which I feels like to me is just an expansion of that line, which I think is I forget which timeline that is. But I love that they're continuing to expand on the timelines. After Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and they're like, all the timelines merged into one, and now it's just this one time, which makes no sense. It's so stupid. But I love that they're continuing to build upon these established 3 timelines, the original ones at least. So that'd be cool. I'm excited for that. I think it'll be good. more Zelda is good, I think, and I mean, just the idea that this is so different than a normal Zelda game, I think is gonna be something that brings people in, and just the way that you can interact in the world and progress the story in your own unique way will be fun to share with other people. And like, oh, I did this to get around this. Like, oh, I didn't think about that. That I did this, and it's like, oh, very cool. I think it'll be fun that way. You're kind of building your own narrative, so to speak. You know what I mean? So
It feels
share.
like they're using some of the lessons from Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild of like, here's the tools, figure it out however you want, instead of like,
Yeah.
which is very different than the traditional Legend of Zelda of like, you need the tool to solve this problem. If you don't have the tool to solve this problem, you need to go find it, or you're not ready yet. So it feels really cool to have that open up in a more traditional looking, Legend of Zelda game, to have that openness. It's cool.
So true, so true. Yeah, I love that they're expanding on this idea of like, you know what, just go for it. Like whatever you want to do, you go for it. Unless it's duplicating things, we'll stop you from doing that for some weird reason. Well, I don't know why they care that much, but whatever. Yeah. But Ryan, what is your next one? Your next one, your list is very compelling. Because I feel you for all these. I don't know much about the last one that you're going to talk about. I think I know which one. I think I know which one that is. I need to look it up. But the other two, I am also like in this camp of like. I'm hopeful.
So the next one I want to talk about is Star Wars Outlaws. We saw a good chunk of it, a big chunk of it in the Ubisoft showcase, whatever they're calling it. And it looked like some stuff looked really cool, like the going like the battling in space and then flying right to a planet, the getting to like walk around these worlds that look like, at least in the trailers, like look a little bit full and lived in and look like those places. And just getting to again hear the story of like the more they focus on the non-Jedi stories, I think they're really interesting and able to like flush this world out a little bit more. I think we've like seen a lot of, especially that time period of here's what Jedis were doing and Sith were doing during this time, and I think it's really compelling to see what was happening not in those not with the people who were big and powerful and shaping the world, but the little folks and what they were dealing with. So I'm really excited to explore those stories. My biggest hang-up is Ubisoft is making this, and I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried that it's just going to be a game where like they've shown these like really big scale like maps and locations, and I'm worried it's going to be full of nonsense or full of like little collectibles or full of like just stuff that pads out the experience. And then it doesn't land from like a narrative perspective because like that isn't necessarily always Ubisoft's strong point with their teams. I don't remember which team is. I'm pretty sure it's not Lions because they're working on Shadow, Assassin's Creed. But so I'm excited to if this. I hope this is good. I hope we get some more cool, similar to Jedi Survivor, like that type of new type of Star Wars games that lets you explore these worlds. Especially when you're not a Jedi, and I'm just nervous that it's not gonna live up to what I'm hoping it will be, or that the gameplay is gonna be kind of bad or boring, or that the story is gonna fall kind of flat. Because again, it's just with so many of these bigger studios, they don't necessarily need to land everything. They just need to hype it up enough that enough people buy it, and to justify the cost. Yeah, exactly. Keep the license going because you have to produce, within a certain period of time to keep it. So we'll see. I'm cautiously excited. It looks pretty cool from the trailers, but it's just so hard to know what it's actually going to feel like and how much of outside of that very small snippet will be exciting.
I love a strong female lead. I love a cool robot buddy. I think that's really cool. I love that it's a smuggler and not a Jedi and Sith sort of thing. Because I think that can get so convoluted, especially in games. It's really hard to portray that in a really realistic way, like they do in the shows and the movies. Yeah. So I think the smuggler is such a cool idea, and this is coming from someone who just didn't click with Jedi Survivor or Jedi. Survivor was the last one.
Is that the Fallen Order was the first one? Survivor's the second
Fallen Order.
One. Yeah.
Survivor's second. Okay, yeah. I love Fallen Order. And I really struggled with Survivor. Not a bad game, but it just felt really hollow to me personally.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, something about it, I just did not connect with it in the way that I did Fallen Order. Fallen Order, I really enjoyed the story of this young man as he tries to find himself again. And with Survivor, it just felt so hollow comparatively. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if Outlaws was coming out right after Fallen Order, I would be like really excited for this. I think I'd feel very confident if it was the same team doing it or whatnot. You know what I mean? Or this is kind of like, you know what I mean? Like there's some kind of like connectedness to this development. However, I don't think that's the case, and I don't feel great after Survivor. So I'm not sure. I'm also cautiously optimistic. I really am hoping that this works out, but we'll see. I don't know. Yeah. Ubisoft is a little scary in itself, and the idea of what they're producing. I know not everyone holds this perspective, and that's totally okay, because I want to hear other perspectives about this, because maybe it'll push me to see outside my own, and I'll take greater appreciation for these games. But like the same thing happened with me in Assassin's Creed Mirage. I was really excited for that game, and then playing it again, it felt so hollow, and I was very bummed about it. Nothing compares to, and maybe this takes away all my validity or all my all the faith that someone might have in me, but nothing compares to Assassin's Creed Unity and how much fun I had in that game.
Yeah.
And like the story wasn't amazing, but it did grip me in a way that I enjoyed it, and it was worth playing it more. But like nothing since Ubisoft has made that game and Fallen Order has grabbed me in those ways.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I took your conversation and totally ran with it.
No. That's I think that sounds great. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Yeah. I'm in a really similar place. So we'll see how that all goes and how that all shakes out. I hope we get more good games. That is always the hope, that these games come out and they are good. But being partaking in this hobby and this interest for coming up on a couple 2 or 3 decades, right? Oof. Like you start to like there are trends that you notice and companies that you notice that you have less faith in over time. And I think those companies, it's on them to kind of win your trust back, and I'm hoping Ubisoft can do that. I have very similar worries about Assassin's Creed. That looks cool, might be fun, but I don't know if I trust them to stick the landing. So we'll see.
Nothing with the protagonist or that. I'm really cool. Was it Yasuke? I think is his name, the historical figure.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's so cool that they're doing that. I don't understand all the hate. Like,
no, it's nonsense.
Whatever. Like, who cares? What they think, what people like that. I mean, I think again, love sharing perspectives, love getting ideas. When it comes to that kind of perspective, it's just so toxic. It's like, I can hear you for 2 seconds, like, oh, okay, this holds no water or holds no validity to what is actually being said. Okay, no worries, I'll just ignore that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so cool. I am hopeful for that game, and the idea that it's giving you 2 different ways of achieving your goal or working in tandem with each other, which I think is very cool. It's not 2 assassins doing assassiny things. It's one person distracting one person doing. And I think that's actually very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll see. Again, we'll see. Ubisoft has a lot of stuff. It has a lot of great presentations that don't end up happening the way that you think they will. And so it's like, we'll see. My next one isn't really so much a narrative one, not narrative one in itself for the game, more of a narrative outside of it and like the significance of it being announced, and that is the Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or actually better known as the Marvel vs. Capcom Collection. No, what's it called? It is. What is it called? Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. That's what it is. And the significance of that, for anyone who doesn't know the significance of this.
Yeah, I had no idea what this was until I think I was listening to a podcast, and
it's wild, because for those who don't know, Marvel vs. Capcom has been a thing for a very long time, at least since the 90s. I don't know when the exact time is they came out. But they've been working together for a long time until Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It came out mid 2010s. I forget exactly when it came out. And that game did not do well. And it really soured the relationship between Marvel and Capcom to the point where the idea of Marvel vs. Capcom 4 or beyond was just not going to be a thing. Like, everyone knew that it was just off the table. It was never going to happen. And a lot of people felt like this series was dead, especially with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, especially being like beloved. Like, it is a fighting game that many people consider their favorite fighting games. So when that got announced during the Nintendo, what's it called? Announcement thing. Direct, thank you. Yeah, the Nintendo Direct. It blew a lot of people's minds, because in order for that to happen, Marvel and Capcom have to agree to the licensing deal to allow that to be published. And so for these two to be talking to each other again and allow themselves to both put out this collection of games means that they're talking again, which means that the idea of a Marvel versus Capcom 4 or whatever may come is now very, very likely, which is crazy, especially if the sales do well. If the sales do well, then it's going to just show Marvel and Capcom, hey, we have a great opportunity to make something really cool here that people can invest money in. And if they learn from their mistakes from last time, Capcom can make a much better game, hopefully. Especially with the success of Street Fighter 6, because that game is doing crazy, and I love it. And then just released Bison, and he actually is cool. I have so much faith in Capcom right now because they released Bison for Street Fighter 6, and Bison is a character that I think is so generically lame. And that for me, he's a character I would never play in the past. And now, with how he looks and how he plays, I think he is so cool. And I would have thought I would say that. But the direction of Street Fighter 6 has made me so confident in what could come from Marvel versus Capcom 4 or whatever comes. So it's just the narrative of that whole story with these games and the fact that they're coming out on this collection and no one saw it coming is bonkers crazy. Like, it's very cool and very exciting for what could come, because fighting games are on the upswing right now with so many coming out and it's being so popular, and Evo's coming out soon. I think Evo's coming out soon. Evo, the fighting game tournament yearly thing. And I'm just really excited for what could come. I'm garbage at Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I'll be super honest with you, but man, if I go to an arcade and it's there, I have to play it. Like, it's just so iconic. And that the music too is just so good. I highly, highly recommend it. If anyone's interested in fighting games or is experiencing this like kind of iconic game series, I really encourage you to buy the collection. I think you would really enjoy it. But yeah, that's my pitch.
Cool. Yeah.
Not sponsored by Capcom or Marvel. but
you know, if they wanted to, yeah. Very cool.
But Ryan, you have one more on your list.
I do, yeah.
Excited games, and this is one I saw too, the announcement for it, and I was like, "This looks so cool."
Yeah,
to find out what it is again. Yeah.
This like really jumped out at me when this trailer started playing as something weird and different. It's made by the We Happy Few folks, which is cool. It is, yeah, and the game is called South of Midnight. It is like this. It looks like third-person action-adventure narrative game, and like the art style is really cool and interesting. It's almost cel-shaded, and like yeah, exactly. It looks really great, and has some really cool art design. In the trailer, you see this like giant catfish that the main character, I think Hazel, is riding on, and there's this giant crocodile, and it like the way you move around the world is really cool. And I'm just really excited. That whole like kind of deep South Wild West is a vibe I really enjoy, of like the supernatural meeting like the, you know, American mythos of the South and the West. It's a genre that I really enjoy, so I'm excited to see a story in this world. And it just looks so cool and so different than anything else that's coming out. It reminds me of when Bridge of Spirits was shown, like this like out of left field, totally wild, super cool 3D third person action adventure game that was doing something really interesting and different and had like a cool art style. So I'm really excited. I don't know really anything about it other than what was in the trailer. It doesn't come out till 2025, so we've still got like quite a bit of time before we're gonna probably see anything else. But yeah, it looks really cool. It's something that really jumped out at me as something like really different looking in the Xbox Showcase. I think it was in the Xbox Showcase. That just looks so cool.
I feel that game to me. The fact that it's made by the We Happy Few people is pretty wild to me. That is not a game that I thought they would make, and I totally feel like that's a game that the release date will be announced in December during Game Awards. Yeah. And I think that it'll come out next summer. It feels like a summer game. It feels like a game. And I'm curious what you think too, Ryan, because as I'm thinking about it, as you're talking about it, it gives me that same vibe of Infamous 2, with it being in the South and being kind of bayou, kind of like New Orleans, like kind of, don't hate me for saying New Orleans, whatever. I don't know how to say it. That kind of vibe. I really enjoyed that vibe of Infamous 2 a lot. And I had the same feeling while watching the trailer for South of Midnight. Yeah. So, yeah. It does look really cool. I love the Into the Spider-Verse kind of cell shading. I think the character ran at 30 frames, and then the world was in 60.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
think.
right. Yeah, there was like this
Yeah.
really interesting frame rate that was happening that just it added so much to the art style. It was really cool.
My last one though is one I've already talked about
Yes.
before, so I won't talk about it too long. I don't like to say the word "beat a dead horse." I think that's really too. It's kind of weird. You know, like, who's doing this to begin with? Why? You know,
Yeah,
it's really
yeah,
problematic. I
yeah.
won't be on it too long though, but Black Myth Wukong is one
Yeah.
where like now that I see after playing Liza P and seeing how Souls-like games could have a really good narrative built into it that you just have to kind of explore to find out. Because Liza P had a really good narrative, in my opinion. Um, I'm hopeful that with Black Myth Wukong being based on the tale of Journey to the West or having some kind of influence there, I'm not sure if it's like it or based on it or has some kind of interaction with it or influence with it. Um, but I'm thinking Black Myth Wukong could be a Souls like that has a really rich narrative if you find it. I'm really hopeful for it to be that way because it's so wacky, wild, and like what is going on that I almost feel there has to be more explanation for it. Like they have to have the lore to back it up to make it like not so weird. Like you fight a tiger person in a pool of blood.
Yeah.
Like it's just like why? You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
so random. There needs to be some kind of narrative thing going on there.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what comes from it. It looks like so much fun. Um, yeah, I don't know. I have nothing else to say. I have nothing else to back this up on other than like I'm just hopeful it's good.
Yeah, it looks
Hopeful
cool.
in all aspects, narratively and gameplay wise.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's a stunning
yeah.
looking game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. But no, Ryan? Who do you think won in terms of the showcases?
Um, I think I walked away the most excited from the Xbox showcase for sure. The amount of stuff that they showed, I was interested and excited about. It's so hard to know where the lines are. I mean, like the summer game, like Fast, like that actual like 3 hours or whatever it was. There wasn't anything like Civ 7 is very exciting. But like it's not. I'll definitely check it out. But you know, when Civ first comes out, it's always a bit of a mess because it doesn't have as much going on as the previous game. And then the PlayStation State of Play had nothing for me that I was particularly interested in. The Direct, there was some really cool stuff. I'm especially excited about the Mario and Luigi game because those games I loved on Game Boy Advanced and Game Boy. I loved those games. Yeah, they're some of my favorite RPGs. They're really great. If you haven't played them, so I'm really excited about that. But Xbox had so much with like showing some of Fable, which was wild. Perfect Dark, which I didn't play Perfect Dark 64, but this looks incredible. They had just so much cool stuff that they showed off that I was really excited about, including I think like 2 of the 3 games that I talked about. So yeah, I think Xbox had the strongest showing, which like they absolutely needed
it.
so
They needed
badly. If they didn't show up and blow everyone away, I think there was going to be a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're already like figuratively staring down the barrel of a gun after closing some of their studios,
Yeah.
and then coming to this. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that could have been really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat as you. I feel like PlayStation had nothing to offer that was really exciting for me personally. I think that Nintendo had a lot of cool stuff. I think Xbox probably had the most cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then the actual Summer Games Fest was like kind of like whatever. You know what I mean? Like it was fine, but like it wasn't anything that like particularly gripped me. I know we watched at the time when we could. We watched the
the cozy.
the cozy one,
Yeah, there's some really fun
Yeah.
stuff in there. Yeah.
and it seemed that there's some things in there that seemed really cool. Because I don't usually play cozy games, so like just kind of watching all the games that are coming out in that regard, I was like, wow, like games with literally no stress involved. There's a whole other world that I have not explored besides Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe I should try some of those.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah.
kind of nice. Yeah, we'll see. But no, a lot of cool games coming, a lot of excitement for it. Hopefully some good narratives though to cover.
Yeah. I hope so.
Speaking of narratives,
Yeah.
we got that seemed a little
No, that was a
weird.
perfect
I don't know why I said it
transition.
that way. I was trying to seem edgy and cool. Didn't ever work out. Speaking of narratives though, we're going back to our game of the year bracket list
Sure
for
are.
the best narrative between all the game of the year winners from 2013 to now. Yeah, 2013 to now. And our 3 winners so far, between Breath of the Wild and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, we deemed Breath of the Wild the winner. Between Elden Ring and The Last of Us Part 2, we deemed The Last of Us Part 2 the winner. And this is all narrative based.
Yeah.
And totally our own perspectives. If you don't like it, please let us
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah.
We would love to know more of your perspectives. Between The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and Baldur's Gate 3, we said Baldur's Gate was the winner for all these narratives. And now we're on to match 4. Ryan, would you like to announce our contestants for match 4? And this is all random, by the way. All these matchups are random.
We did not seed it at all. We probably should have. All random. So for the next matchup, we have Dragon Age Inquisition and Overwatch. Two very different games. Dragon Age Inquisition is an RPG in like the BioWare, franchise. BioWare was like the makers of RPGs for a little while, and they made Dragon Age Inquisition, which, a new one was just announced, which there's a lot of mixed feelings about. We'll see. Yeah, a lot of folks who really love the Dragon Age franchise feel like it looked too like Marvel-y in how it like presented characters. Like the characters looked like very like some people even compared to like Overwatch, like these bombastic, over-the-top characters who didn't feel as real as I guess some of the older games did. I have not played any Dragon Age. Celeste, our friend, has told me so many times. She's told me that I really need to play them, and I haven't. They're super on sale right now if folks want to check them out, but I have not touched any Dragon Age. But yeah, there's Overwatch, which was like, the biggest game of its time with a lot of interesting characters. It was like the revitalization of team shooters came from Overwatch. Before that, it was... just kind of TF2, and there wasn't really anything else in between. I think there might have been some stuff bopping around, but nothing to the scale of Overwatch at all. Yeah, it was a wild time. Yeah, it was. That was like when Blizzard was like the peak of game developers.
Blizzard could do all wrong and not get caught for it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The heyday of Blizzard. Gross.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not true. I don't actually believe that. That was a totally joke.
No, you're fine.
Blizzard is super gross.
Yeah.
No, man, there was something about the mystery or just lack of knowledge between what was actually happening in the narrative of Overwatch that made it so compelling.
Yeah.
This idea that there were good guys and bad guys, and you're not sure why or what happened, and this team, this hero team disbanded and for what, and putting it all together, and the shorts that they had.
Incredible.
The game
was cool. Yeah.
Like if it was just based on the shorts, if we were like, okay, we're not just the game, right? We're going to include all the material outside the game and all the animated shorts. I think this would be a whole different argument.
Absolutely.
But when you look at just the game and the narrative that's provided in the game, Overwatch offers so little. Mm-hmm. When it was given Game of the Year, that first year it came out, it offered so little story besides that you knew this team called Overwatch disbanded and everyone was kind of on their side, and then they're trying to get back together, and that's all you knew.
Yeah.
But like it was like kind of, I don't know. It was the narrative was weak comparatively to the really fun gameplay that is no more. Really.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and people can say that's not, but it is not the same, in my opinion. But I don't know. Whereas, with Dragon Age Inquisition, I also had not played this. So this is like the one game I have. Well, I haven't played Baldur's Gate either, but or Elden Ring. But it's the one that I really haven't played or really have actually no experience with. Mm-hmm. But it's also an RPG. Which RPGs have pretty detailed stories.
They usually do,
narratively.
Yeah.
So I personally feel like between the two, it has to go to Inquisition just because Overwatch's narrative perspective is so small at the time.
Yeah, I think I agree. My only experience with the narrative of Dragon Age is conversations with Celeste, and she designed an entire one-shot that essentially took an entire side quest from Dragon Age, and we played through it. So that's like my only experience with the narrative of this game. But like you said, it is an RPG. It's a BioWare RPG. I imagine there was something interesting going on there. More than nothing. Definitely more than nothing. So even though this is probably our weakest of the discussions we're gonna have,
yeah.
I think it has to go to Dragon Age just because there just wasn't anything in Overwatch to.
I agree.
Okay. Well, easy peasy.
I am pulling up so Storygoers, you're probably wondering, hey, didn't they have a whole rubric for rating these games?
Oh, we sure did.
Yeah, we did, but you know what? It was easy. These are easier ones. These are like the ones that it's like, it's just kind of blatantly obvious, at least to me. But it was like, it's obvious. Now we're getting into the ones where it's going to be a little harder. I think we're going to have to use the criteria.
I think Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think so too.
I'll go over it really fast, just so we all are aware. Because
I
now,
love
now
that.
I think we're going to need to bust out the criteria. Now we need to know how to
Absolutely.
rate these. We have 4 criteria we're looking out for the narrative aspects of these following games. We have the emotional resonance. Does this story invoke strong emotions, positive or negative? Right? Consider factors such as emotional authenticity, resonance, and impact. We have character. Are the characters well developed? Are they relatable, engaging characters in the story? Does it make the story? Does it break the story? The plot is a strong plot. Is it clear? Is there conflict and resolution? Is there a good pacing, tension, and surprise? And then lastly, world building. Is the setting, the atmosphere, and the rules of the world in which the story takes place does it greatly impact the reader's experience of said story? So we're looking at consistency, detail, and immersion.
Yeah.
So I think it might be good to kind of go through these next ones and rate them as we go.
Yeah.
If you feel so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that'd be a really good idea. So, do you want to announce so I stopped talking this much? Do you want to announce the next,
Sure, yeah.
next match?
So our next is match 5 between a previous winner and a game we haven't talked about yet. This game, for some reason, got a bye because we didn't weigh things, so it got to bypass the first pass. And that is It Takes Two versus Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild. Is our matchup here.
This is a hard one because I have a lot of feelings in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I have a lot of I have a lot of strong feelings in both situations. I don't know if I have very strong feelings about one of these games. And it's hard to balance. I mean, I'm just going to say it. I have
for yourself.
It Takes Two had a story that I actively disliked and hated.
Yeah.
From a narrative standpoint, from the character standpoint, I did not like the characters. I did not like what they were doing. I did not like any of what the game had to say from like a story perspective. So it's hard, but it had something there. I just didn't like it, and I didn't engage with it. I didn't think it was it was great.
The fact that it won Game of the Year though says something. Like I don't know if we missed something or if we're just on a higher playing field.
Yeah, exactly. But like, we're better than the general public.
I just don't. I mean, this is one where I know we need to cover this game because I need other perspectives. I need to know why people said this, and It Takes Two. And when you look at it from a gameplay standpoint, I can see why people wanted that to get Game of the Year because so many different gameplay loops and elements, things that were fun and different. Each segment was a little different than the last one in terms of what you have to do and how you work together. Very smartly made, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever say it.
Fun game to play.
I can't say it's not a fun game to play. I mean, did each level take a little bit too long than it should have? Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
But like, was it fun? Yeah, 100%. It was fun to play with other people. Like that was the coolest part. You did work together.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. It had a story. And I think it did. I think it did a lot of things that we're looking for in the criteria of like, it had emotional resonance. It did invoke strong feelings for me, especially during certain acts of that game where I had a really hard time completing them, if not wanting to just quit the game entirely because of what was happening in the story.
Yeah.
The characters, I don't think they're well developed. Are they relatable? Kind of, because they are having a conflict with each other, and conflict is something we all have been a part of. Are they well developed? I'm not sure. And for me, it broke the story. The plot, while I think is kind of fun and silly and goofy, which is like cool, the resolution was not what I think the plot should have been. I don't think the moral of that story is a healthy one for people to carry with them. I don't think the idea that hardship and a tumultuous relationship go together to create a happy ending. That's not you know what I mean? Like that's not I think what the plot should have been.
Yeah.
And in terms of world building, honestly, that's probably the funnest thing about this game, or the narrative, is the world building itself and all the different worlds you go to and how you interact with them. But then that said, spoilers, I guess, at this point, right? That said, these two characters are kind of just invading and ruining all these different little worlds they're going to, and then inflicting harm, especially onto one of the characters where they're actively screaming and asking you to stop hurting them.
Yeah.
So does this game have a deep narrative? I would say yes. Is it a good deep narrative? I would say no. I would say no. I very adamantly say no. I don't think this is a healthy perspective. I don't think it's a good plot. I don't like these characters. Um, there's a lot of problems with it. A lot of problems where I was like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
why are we doing this? This
Yeah.
is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like these characters had to do this. This feels like a game. Again, spoilers. Then I'll shut up after I get this point out. This feels like a game where two people had to do a lot of awful things to a lot of creatures, whether the creatures tried to hurt them or not. These two caused so much destruction and chaos for their own selfish gain that it pushed them to be quote unquote better people together. And I don't understand the point. You know what I mean? Like, this is the guy, if that's the kind of relationship you want, more power to you, I guess. Like, you know, I don't know. That's not how I would want my relationship, but I don't know. So I have a lot of feelings about this that I knew I had, but man,
Yeah.
it's coming out hard. But
Yeah,
it's like,
no, I feel the same way. I mean, I think like the game is the backdrop of the game is right. These two parents who've we're continuing to spoil this game.
you're supposed to spoil all of it. Let's do it.
The backdrop of this game is that it's two parents who've are getting separated or have separated or in the process of separating in some way. They've made the choice that hey, like, we're not happy together anymore. And through some magical whimsy, they are, transported to a magical world to solve these problems together. This giant book, the Book of Love, that was sold at a children's library, is
So true. Yeah.
that is like trying to get these folks back together by like talking about their emotions and their feelings. All throughout the game, though, these characters' choices, they seem so abrasive to each other that as a player, I'm not rooting for this relationship. I'm not rooting for this experience to be successful. Their, back and forth is getting in the way of me experiencing the gameplay, which is, generally fun. But I think I would agree with you in that, like, you get the gimmick pretty quick and then you're ready to move on to the next thing. It doesn't do any of the gimmicks incredibly well because you don't, live with them for an entire game. Right. And yeah, it's just so hard to connect with this narrative experience when it is trying to take on something that is like human and difficult, but that requires a lot of nuance that I think is really lost in this experience. And like the structure of the plot is like, at first we're playing it out like in the world we live in, like we're in the garage, we're in like the living room, we're in the garden, whatever. Then you move into like these important parts of their lives. You go on like a snow globe that they got when they were together. One of them really loves music, so you go into this like musical world. And as you're experiencing these things, in theory, like they're like getting to know each other and to better understand each other. I in no moment got that was like what these characters were seeing, other than them just like saying these things. Like there was no, like they would just say, "Oh, maybe I should have been nicer." Like but there was no. It didn't feel earned. It didn't feel like any of it was like genuine or meaningful. So it was like structured in a way that I think could have been very strong if these characters were written better, played better, and like the whole narrative was yeah. I think like you said, the world building is really interesting. You go to these really cool places. They feel a bit disjointed from time to time in the places you're going. They do justify it in world of like, you're starting out in the shed and then you go into the garden and then you're in a little girl's room, and those places feel like those places. Like the boss of the shed is a shop vac, right? That feels like a interesting world building. You murder the shop vac and then move on, right? Which again is part of the problem. That you're getting to, Eric. Yeah, you're just like, which in video games that happens. In video games, you just kill things and destroy things and move on. And in a game where like that, it's not my goal to emotionally connect with this person. I think that makes sense. But in a game where the goal is to emotionally connect to these beings and see them growing as people, it is really hard. That like ludonarrative dissonance of like Uncharted, where Nathan Drake murders hundreds of people, but he's likable and funny and silly and goofy, right? Like it is even harder in a game where the purpose is to connect and think about our emotions, where the purpose of Uncharted is to have like a fun action movie, and those are tropes in action movies. So it's a really hard game to, I think, narratively get through.
Even like take the idea, you're 100%. In my opinion, you're right. Totally right. Like, even take the idea of Mario. Like, Mario fighting that shot back makes sensing the idea that you're not connecting with Mario. You're just enjoying a fun world and a fun game with this character. This narrative with Cody and May, I think their names are. All I remember is her Cody all the time. I really like not want to play.
Yeah.
You're right. This is a game where this is a story that's supposed to be connecting these two individuals to find and reignite their love for one another. And I don't see that ever happening except for one moment in the game, maybe. But that one moment doesn't. I don't see how that one moment can reestablish a whole entire relationship and the frustrations that are built upon it. And again, I'm about to spoil this game. If you don't want this spoiled, please skip ahead. Like, please. By the end of this game, the people come out, stop being dolls and be people again, and have somehow fallen back in love again. They're going to be together. They're going to make this work for their daughter and move forward, which I think is such an unhealthy resolution to this to this real problem that a lot of people face, right? When relationships are struggling and they have to decide if they want to be together or not. I love the idea that these two work together and go through all these trials to realize, you know what? We don't love each other, but when we put our heads together, we work really well together, and we can co-parent our daughter and work together even if there is no love there, and we can live separate lives. We can we can not be a couple anymore, but we're still a team. And if they come out of that and they sat down with their daughter and had a real conversation, like, hey, we are going to get a divorce, and this is what it looks like, and it is sad, but we're your parents, and we're going to work together. We're a strong team, and we're going to make that. I love that. I love that ending. I think that ending would have been so earned, so awesome, because this is I love the idea. I wish parents could go through things, boot camps where they go through situations like this, I guess. I don't never be like this, but like hardship, right? And come out the other end and say, we're not going to get divorced. We're going to make this work. But so often it does not happen. And so many kids do go through the experience of having their parents divorce and the struggles that is. And I think it's way more relatable for kids who play that game to see that ending where the parents come forward and say, no, we are getting divorced, but we are a family, we are a team, and we're going to make this work because we love you. I think that is so much more emotionally impacting. I think it's more of a connection for everybody involved that could be experiencing this game. And it doesn't give this false pretense that, well, you know what, if you really push hard and work together, you'll make it work.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's true, and sometimes that's not. I think more oftentimes it's not. I just think that ending is it's a false promise to this idea that you can just push through anything and make it work. Sometimes it's okay to say, no, this isn't good and we need to end this. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and absolutely.
So, yeah. I don't know. We're going to be saying all this again when we cover this game, but like...
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go through how about this, Ryan? Instead of beating a dead horse, let's rate It Takes Two on the criteria of these things. And
Got
then
it.
Maybe we'll take if we differ, we'll take the in between.
Okay.
That
sounds
sense.
good. Yeah.
I think we said 1 through 5 last time. I don't remember.
That I have no memory, so that sounds great.
I don't either. I think either 1 through 3, make it really simple, or 1 through 5.
Let's do 1 through 3. I think that'll tell us all we need to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So emotional resonance, a story that invokes strong emotions in the reader, can be particularly effective in the storytelling. What is your emotional resonance with this?
I mean, it invokes strong emotions, but I don't think it invokes the emotions it wants. I think it actually is evoking the opposite emotion, so I think I'm going to give it a
Same.
1.
So It Takes Two. So emotional resonance is a 1. I would say I was going to give it a 2 because it gave me such strong emotions in the negative way. That it was like, wow, this story is really... I would say, though, like, I didn't like where the narrative story went, so I'll probably agree with 1 too, honestly.
Okay.
Characters. I did not like any of the characters in this game. I think all the characters were rough. Even the child was particularly not helpful at all. And so I would give the characters, especially Cody and May. Cody and May, there was nothing about them that I was like, wow, these people are great. Even at the end, even when they have this like supposed realization and they are full circle healed from their struggles with each other, I still don't think that they're great. So I would unfortunately give them a 1 too. The characters of the game a 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think like with a different ending where the growth feels different, I think I don't think problematic characters you don't like are necessarily an inherent problem in stories. I think sometimes you need that in stories.
Yeah.
I think it is sometimes hard to connect when none of the characters you like are interesting. I think in a different world with the growth looks different, I think I could see giving them a 2, but I think I'm also at a 1.
Yeah, if they had the ending that I was pitching where they decide to get the divorce and be realistic with it and supportive of each other and be a team, I think that, you know what, I actually could give them a 2, maybe a 3.
Yeah.
Like, for the character. But the fact that they come at the end of all this and say, no, we're still in love. We're not, we hated each other, you know, 24 hours ago, and now we're fully in love again. I just think like you're delusional and you've learned absolutely nothing from the psychotic book that made you do all this crazy things.
Right. I mean, there's moments in the game where like they're talking about how they gave up each other's dreams. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I wanted to be a musician and I quit because of our relationship, right? Like, that is something that they talk about in the game, which, again, is real and powerful, but to just then brush over it and not engage with it and ignore it, I think it makes it even worse.
Do they, I mean, it's been a while, but, like, I don't think they ever talk about, I mean, that's essentially why, but, like, they never, like, really dive into this, like the reasons they hate each other, besides like obviously they gave up their dreams for each other, but they also had a kid, so like they didn't plan things out very well particularly, but
right, yeah,
you know what I mean, like that. Yeah, I just think, I don't know, when you have these characters, again, we're spoiling this game, right? Like the one part in the game where in the Storyland kind of doll world at the kid's bedroom or whatever, their character development is, hey, I think the only way to break this curse is to have our kid cry on us, because of course children's tears are going to cure everything. I don't know how they get that idea. Let's attack her favorite toy, which is now alive and feels pain, apparently is cognizant of pain. Let's torture her, let's rip her ear off, I think. And the character, whoever did the performance of this elephant character deserves an award, in my opinion, because her screaming and begging them not to hurt her was adamantly upsetting to hear. Like,
absolutely,
it pained me. And even though this character is begging for them to stop hurting it, they are continuing to push to kill it. And granted, you know what? If your only logical sense is to make your daughter cry to heal you and not be dolls anymore, and you think the only way to do that is to harm this doll, maybe if I was in that position, I would do the same thing. However, watching the story does not help in any way, shape, or form. No. So I just don't think that as a character they're very redeemable.
No remorse, no feelings of like sad. Nothing.
At least talk to the doll, like, hey, listen, doll, like, can you like do something that would make my daughter cry? Because like we gotta get her. You know what I mean? You know, like, please, like, just pretend you're hurt or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that would work, but I would try any other option besides the torture scene. Something screaming for its life. I would do anything besides try to get to that point, but they go straight there. They don't think of any other options. It's let's torture this doll. Whatever. Who cares? The plot, is it a strong plot with a clear structure, conflict, and resolution? No, in my opinion, no. It has decent pacing between between all the levels. I think it has like good ways of like transitioning between all these things. Yeah. But is the conflict and resolution is a good one? No, in my opinion, the ending is the worst resolution I think it could have gotten to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like they set up a conflict in the very beginning of the game when these parents are fighting, but they never actually earn that resolution of it. Mm-hmm. Like, there's not that I can remember any meaningful character moments where these characters are like connect in a way that makes sense and feels like anything beyond like a throwaway line as you're jumping doing platforming. I think like these pieces are there, but it just falls so flat. I think I get it. It's just...
Sorry, my cat lost it. My cat fell. Sorry. How's that?
Oh no, are they okay?
Yeah, they're fine.
Okay.
I'm gonna close the door really fast. 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here. We both said 1 for character. So, or I'm sorry, we're on
1
plot. I'm sorry.
We're on 1 for plot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you say 1 for plot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, cool. I think it could have been really good. I think the plot could have been really good. I think it could have been. It started in this really real place of a struggling marriage, which is so real for so many people, whether you're in that marriage or you're a bystander on the outside watching it. Like you're a part of that dynamic in a different way. But like, giving this false promise that if you push through enough conflict enough together, you will get to their end fully loving one another. I think it's just such a false promise that I just don't. I don't know. I really wish I could understand the writer's perspective on this. Like I wish I could talk to them and kind of get their perspective as to why that was the ending, that was the quote unquote good ending. Because honestly, in my opinion, I feel like that's the bad ending. I feel like that is the ending that is like the bad one. This is the false promise that things are gonna work out. Because I could see in another year's time, this couple falls back in their old patterns and are miserable again and forget everything they learned from this experience of being dolls, unless they have PTSD from it or are adamantly just pretending to like each other so they don't get turned into dolls again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And world building, the setting, the atmosphere, and the rules of the world in which the story takes place can greatly impact the reader's experience. I'd actually give the world building like a 3.
This is by far the
cool.
strongest. Yeah, by far the strongest. They're really interesting. They're engaging. There's cool stuff going on. I mean, they find ways to make things exciting and cool. There's I think this is definitely the strongest. I think some of these worlds are more fleshed out than others. And they all feel very different. There's one that's like fully open world. You can kind of explore what you want. Others are really linear. I think I'm between 2 and 3. I'm happy to give it a 3. I think it's fairly strong.
I think it's definitely the strongest part of it. It gives it the most like impact in the story, that because the story could have just taken place and throughout their whole house as them as dolls, but it goes in such weird places that like it is kind of like, I don't know if endearing is the right word, but like interesting and whimsical and very creative, which I think adds a layer to the experience of this narrative.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't take full advantage of it. But that's
right.
But I fault that to the other points of the emotional resonance, character, and plot. The world building in itself is really fun. I like that they took it in weird places because it is a weird situation where this couple has been turned into dolls. So it's like, what are we even doing? Let's make it weird. And that works in that's favor. Yeah. All right. So we did It Takes Two. Now let's move on to Breath of the Wild, which honestly this is a weird matchup because or an interesting matchup, I should say, because they're very different games with their flaws and their and some good aspects. But like, it's really hard from a narrative perspective to kind of see which one's stronger, in my opinion, just kind of thinking of it over in my head. But Breath of the Wild, the emotional resonance, a story that invokes strong emotions in the reader that can be particularly effective. We're looking for emotional authenticity, resonance, and impact. And for Zelda, I don't know if I have any of that.
It's hard. It's hard. That's not
besides nostalgia. Nostalgia is like the one thing, but that's not narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this one for me is probably a 1. I think there are some moments that are emotionally intense or that tell an interesting story, but so much of that is taken out of the sails for me that it's already happened and that you have no impact on it and it's happened in the past. It makes it hard to have that same resonance that, like the world's ended, there's nothing we can do about that other than, keep moving forward. I think that's probably... I definitely think there is because you've spent so much time with these characters and versions of these characters, there's probably some emotional resonance. But I think for me, it's probably a 1, I think. Yeah.
I think if it wasn't taking nostalgia out of the factor that this is a Zelda game and you look at it just as its game, just as the narrative of what this game is, I'm unfortunately going to agree with you in the idea that it is weaker. Like, I think the only true emotional resonance I really feel like the impact of things is the idea that these guardians died.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, died before they could really do anything, and the impact that you see of the other characters in the world talking about the death of these, especially with Sidon and Mifa, I think is her name. So bad with names. Just seeing her statue in Zoro's domain, and the impact that her presence had with these people, and her death is really sad, but not sad to the point where I'm like, gripping my chest in pain because I'm so sad. It's like, oh, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that's a bummer. That's kind of a bummer to think about. But besides that, you're right. I think knowing everything has already happened and occurred, like, I don't feel the impact of needing to free Zelda from her prison, like her containment of Ganon, and the weight of killing these bosses inside the Divine Beasts. And it was more just like, I'm half naked running around this world and it's really fun. You know what I mean? And that was the emotional resonance, but like, that's not the narrative. aspect of it. That's just the gameplay. So yeah, I'd agree. I say a 1 feels correct. Character development: well developed, relatable, and engaging characters that can make or break a story. We're looking for character depth, consistency, and growth. I think the characters are cool. Yeah. I think they're cool. I don't. I mean, Link is us. Link's not really himself. I would argue, like, he's just the player playing as a character in this world. But then again, that's not true, because I'm thinking back to all the past memories and Link protecting Zelda when he was like basically on death's door and trying to save everybody. Though again, he has no dialogue of any sort. You're kind of just guessing what's going on. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm really torn.
Yeah, I think like there are certainly some characters in this world who are really interesting and cool, and like it's fun to come back to them. I spent a lot of time building up. What's the name of the town that's on the middle of the rock?
Kakariko.
No.
Terrytown.
Terrytown. Like I spent a ton of time doing stuff for Terrytown, and that felt like there was some growth in character growth there, in connecting with those characters and engaging with those characters over time. And this is something that Zelda does so well, is has these like unique, interesting characters you run into over and over again. The bird who plays the sound thingy, like the whatever it's called.
Yes.
There's so many of these characters who are really interesting, and they really like solidify in this world. I mean, it's so hard for me to split this game and Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom, which I think like does everything in this game, but like this narrative all better. But I certainly think there are some characters in there who are interesting and engaging, like the story, but the characters, like seeing the divine beast, those characters in the past versus now, you can tell there's been a change in like how they feel and what has happened as they're reflecting on those things. I think there's some growth and there's some development. It's not strong, and I don't think it's why you keep engaging with the game in that same way. But I definitely think it's stronger. There are characters who I like and want to see again, right? Which is like more than I can say for the previous game.
Sure.
So I think there's something there. It certainly isn't the strongest, but I think it's I don't actively hate everybody.
You know what? That's a good way of looking at it. Like I would say, like comparatively, I would argue that like. I mean, granted, it's my favorite Zelda game, but Majora's Mask does character development well because you see the impact those 3 days have on the characters, and what you help them, what comes of it. And of course, then we go back in time and revert everything. The difference between those versions of these characters that have resolution and don't, I think there's some kind of like an emotional connection there, because you want, at least I want to help them. I like helping Andrew and Kafei at the end of the last day to get the Happy Couples Mask. I think that's what it's called. Before then running over and fighting Majora's Mask. Like I like that. That makes me feel good knowing that's canon in my story. Like that's not gonna. I'm not gonna go back in time and then never not gonna meet. You know what I mean? Like that has an impact. That's relatable. That these characters are ready to die with each other than to spend one more day apart. And I think that's a lot of depth there that I don't know if Breath of the Wild really has. But like I do like the characters in that world considerably more than It Takes Two. So I think that says something. Yeah. So, and there's some growth. I think there is some growth in the characters. The new Guardians that come forward and take the spots of the old ones. I think there's growth there in some way. It's not like deep, ish, right? But like, it's growth.
Yeah, absolutely, it's growth. Yeah, I would
give it a 2. So.
Yeah, I think I'm between like a 1 and 1.5 and a 2. I'm pretty comfortable with a 2 though. I think when we condense the scale down to 1 to 3. I think a 2 feels fine. The characters aren't standouts, but I don't hate them.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas a 3 would be like that extra step where like you really connect with them on a deep emotional level. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but it just never go that place. So
right.
A plot, a strong plot with a clear structure, conflict, and resolution is essential. Considering the factors of pacing, tension, and surprise, which I actually think Zelda kind of does well because it's so simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
I personally feel that way.
simpler stories oftentimes can be a lot stronger. I mean, I think of God of War versus Ragnarok, right? The
Yeah.
simplicity of that
Yes.
story
Yes.
really surfed it and made it so you really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
In
That's
a
so
major
true.
way. Yeah.
I feel like when a story becomes so convoluted in the plot, you don't even know what's happening. It kind of, it's a double-edged sword, and now you're kind of hurting your story. Whereas for Breath of the Wild, though very simple, very simple, very easy to understand, which could be seen as a negative, I might argue in this perspective that it is a positive just because you know what you need to do. Like,
Yeah,
you need to go fight the divine beast, the monsters inside the divine beasts, and then whatever comes along the way just adds to your narrative story that
absolutely.
the world provides. And I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I think like the simplicity of it makes it so it's really digestible, really easy to understand. I think like there's not a ton of tension by game design because they want you to be able to just like have free roam of this world.
Yeah.
Um, um, but yeah, I think it's very clear, and the what you need to do is clear. There's a clear resolution after you defeat these creatures. You make like there's a problem. You solve the problem. The world is better. Like really simple and easy. You do
Really
that four
simple. Yeah.
times, and then you save the kingdom. Right? It's like a and there's a bunch of other like really interesting stories in there that have more complexity. But if you look at the overall plot, I think like um, it does what it needs to do. It tells a story that is enough to keep you going.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. I think because it's so simple, I don't know if I want to give it a 3, but I feel like because it never goes to that place where it's like entirely gripping. That's not the reason why we're running around this world. We're running around this world because it's fun and
Yeah.
and it's an interesting world to be in. Not
Yeah.
necessarily the plot itself. At least that's my argument. That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
But because it is a simpler, more strong plot, I feel comfortable giving it a 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable giving it a 2.
Okay.
I'll hold off on. Yeah,
Is that?
I feel good. I feel good at giving it a 2. I think I might want to revisit when we get to world building. I think I might want to revisit It Takes Two, but
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to apologize as I realize now the last time I just said it that I keep saying in my opinion like a gajillion times. So I'm going to hopefully not do that anymore. Be mindful.
everything is in our opinion.
I ADHD brain spew everything I think. Whether,
Yeah.
even the ums and the uhs and all that. So okay, yeah. So last but not least, world building. The setting, the atmosphere, the rules of the world in which the story takes place can greatly impact the reader's experience. We're considering the factors of the consistency, the detail, and the immersion. And I mean, Ryan, how do you feel? I keep giving my opinion right away, but
I mean,
what are
I
your
think
thoughts?
this is definitely the strongest point of the
Yeah.
entire experience. The world
Same.
is so engrossing and engaging. There's so much going on. That consistency is something that was like revolutionary when it happened in the way that you could like engage with the world and like impact the things around you and feel like really engrossed. I certainly think there's some challenges of like a lot of wide open space sometimes where you have to go and find the things that are there. But I think that is a design choice and not a fault. And I think for some
Yeah.
folks, that's exactly what they want and what they need. I think this is the strongest. I think this is, by far why you want to play. What I would think, like, why you'd want to play these games is because the world is so interesting and you want to engage with it and find all the secrets and nooks and crannies. So much so that it really makes me want to, like, maybe put It Takes Two down to a 2, as it's good but not exceptional.
Okay.
Is my thought. Because this is exceptional, I would say. The world, the way that it like creates this setting of Hyrule in this way is like you have the robots from the war dotted around that are terrifying. You have like these remnants of a story that was told over time, and you're engaging and finding these places, and the world is different because of it. Yeah, I think it's really strong.
Yeah, I support that. I mean, I think Zelda does the world building the best in that It Takes Two. I mean, if we were doing decimals, I guess I'd give it a 2.5. You know what I mean? After you said that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, either way, it doesn't really matter because looking at the rankings, Breath of the Wild has
Yeah.
definitely edged out It Takes Two. But I do want to say this because I feel like there could be a lot of people that could hear this and say that we just love Zelda more than It Takes Two, which is valid. I'm not gonna lie and tell you that you're wrong. I think, and they could look at this and say, well, It Takes Two had a much deeper, compelling story, whether you liked it or not, comparatively to Zelda. And again, I think that you're not wrong. However, when you talk about impacting narratives, I think that even a bad narrative that has a lot of compelling elements in it does not mean that it's a good narrative.
Absolutely.
But I just want to make that point, not to justify myself, and more just me reflecting on kind of this. Like, I could see this in being like, this is messed up. Like, Zelda doesn't really have so much of a narrative comparatively to It Takes Two. But I also think that, again, this is an example of a simple plot and the effectiveness of a simple plot compared to a oversimplified, a complex narrative that ends in a place that is not compelling and not gripping.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean, it's like,
yeah.
like a nursery rhyme is simple and tells a decent story is going to be better than like a 500-page book that makes no sense and make you feel bad that you read 500 pages, right? Like,
Right.
those feel different. It is harder to tell a simpler story than a complicated story in some cases, especially a good one. I don't think more complex inherently means better. I think in some ways it's a bigger swing and you have to land it, which is why like some of the games we're going to talk about land so well because of how complex those stories are and how they like really play with, like, It Takes Two is playing around with some similar, not same themes, but similar themes that of other games we're going to talk about. And like It Takes Two absolutely fails in what it's doing, and another game succeeds in a way that like you might hate the characters in some of the games we're going to talk about, but you understand exactly who they are and what they're doing and why they want to do it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. And plus, like, on your note, to go back to your comment about the songs and the long narratives, I'm going to put my hat in the ring here and say that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is a bop.
It is a bop, absolutely.
It rocks. It's pretty good. Better than anything Beethoven's made. Shots fired. Come at me, Beethoven.
Wow.
I get like a cease and desist from Beethoven representation. So, I mean, I think I feel comfortable saying that Breath of the Wild is the winner between these two.
Absolutely.
Is fair to say? Okay,
absolutely,
cool.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you already had it down.
I already
okay, cool.
Now
You're already there. Wow. Okay. These conversations are taking so long. I think. Do we want the next one's a doozy?
The next one feels like maybe will be the longest and hardest conversation we have.
I almost think that if we finish that conversation, so hear me out, but please tell me if you disagree or agree. I almost feel like covering that, like the next episode would be the last episode we cover this, but I think this will be the hardest conversation, and then this will be the last two that we rate.
Yeah.
And then go against the other ones.
Yeah, I think so. I think like we could probably talk about an hour and a half about these next two game experiences.
Yeah.
And like we would have to change this next conversation, folks. It's The Last of Us versus the original God of War, Last of Us Part 2 versus God of War. And like that is the original God of War. No, this is
not the original.
Oh, right. Yes. The 2018 God of War. Yeah. Last of Us Part 2 versus the 2018 God of War, which is like, that is such a difficult conversation. They're both like, I think I could talk 2 hours about that exclusively, like an hour on each game. But yeah, I think to do it justice, we probably need to give it more time.
So okay, so we're gonna finish this conversation in our next episode, but that'll be the conversation. We'll wrap this up.
We'll wrap it up.
This is not meant to be a 3-part, but so we're sorry if you're annoyed with this already. But we're gonna wrap this up next episode. I think this will be the biggest conversation of the whole thing, quite honestly.
The others I think will happen pretty quick because so we'll see how that goes, and then so that'll be the next conversation. And if we finish early, we can always do like a character wheel or something fun to fill the time there. But we will wrap this up by the next episode. I promise. The Storygoers, tell us what you think, please. Is It Takes Two a better narrative than we are giving it credit for? Should Breath of the Wild win? And what about Dragon Age? I don't know. We don't know anything about it. So let us know your thoughts, feelings, and perspectives at talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All the E's are 3's. Find us on Instagram. Find us on a voicemail or text at 207-494-4334. Or if you're on Spotify, scroll down and answer our poll question below.
and let us know what you think. I really, 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 really am. I'm not begging. That's a little desperate, but I'm desperately begging you to tell me about the It Takes Two narrative. Is it one that you enjoyed? Is it not? Like, the fact that I won Game of the Year makes me think I'm missing something. You know what I mean? Like, am I the crazy one, or is everyone else crazy? It's kind of this weird. You know what I mean? I don't know. So yeah. So let us know your thoughts and all that good stuff. We hope you're doing well. We hope to enjoy this episode. Thank you for sticking with us through this Game of the Year bracket that we will finish next episode. Hopefully. We keep saying that too. We hope you're happy and healthy and well, and enjoy your summer if you're in the nice heat. And if you're not, I'm so sorry. Find a nice warm place to go if you want, or enjoy the cold, whatever it is. We will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.